Welcome to part two. I'm assuming you saw part one already, where I went through our current rental is bringing in $1,072 per month, and that the current tenants have been low maintenance. There's only been 3 calls that I had to be out there to see. With the newer build, chances of maintenance calls happening are slim. Now with the older build, there's things that might break. So keep that in mind as well. I assume you're watching this video because you're interested in the logistics from A to Z of how to convert your current or future residential property into a rental property, or renting one of your bedrooms, renting a shed, etc., etc., etc. Running comps is super important for analyzing to see what kind of rent money you can get for the property that you bought or are planning to buy. Number one, you don't want to have low rental area to where the difference between the rent revenue and your mortgage is, for my comfort level, less than $500 per month. Also, what running comps shows you is obviously you can't charge $1 million a month, for example, right? It shows you a little gateway of what exactly is that rental market charging for rents. Can't charge, you got to be careful into not charging too much and not too little. You want to find the sweet spot in the center. The way to run comps is find houses with the same build as yours, same area, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, whatever it is, and see what the current active and pending listings are showing. Now, an active means it's still active and there's no bids to rent it yet, or lease signed yet. And pending is more than likely super close to getting it rented or signed leased. Websites that I recommend for you to run comps are Zillow, Realtor.com. Your local MLS for us in Texas is har.com. Also check out apartments.com. It's not just for apartments, it's also houses that are there as well. When you're running comps, also pay attention of what makes a property stand out more. You'll see some non-professional pictures taken and some that are very professional. Those houses pop. That's what you want, right? You want to reel in a rental prospect by your pictures and showing the best of your house. I totally recommend, if you're not a photographer yourself, spend the money to hire a professional. We hired somebody that was recommended by a realtor. They charged us $150. Those pictures were amazing. Made our house pop. Definitely didn't want to be like those DIY people that just take a picture and with even not the latest, for example, iPhone, for example, very blurry. Those stayed on the market for a long time. Save these pictures and use them over and over again. Hopefully you get a tenant that stays there longer than just a year, but in case they leave, then you can repost the same thing. Marketing. Like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to cut cost, cut fees. Zillow.com, you can post property for free. They won't charge you anything. You can actually also submit applications through there as well. What you can't do is, if you're not going to use a realtor, then you can't post on MLS. Those are only for licensed professionals. So if you're not using a realtor, you won't be able to use it. But the property management application called RentRedi, they actually post for you on realtor.com, which you actually need a license as a realtor to post on there. But RentRedi, they have a partnership where you can post. They'll post your property there. They'll also post it on apartments.com, hotpads.com. So simultaneously, it's out there. This is a paid advertisement by RentRedi. RentRedi is a rental property managing app. Streamlines collecting rent, tenant submitting maintenance calls, auto-calculates in charges late fees based on the lease terms, capabilities to e-sign lease agreement. Tenant can set up auto payment. One of the big things that sold me is the e-signing. Tenant must take a selfie with their ID out in front of them as their signature. So they can't say that somebody falsified their signature on the lease. The fee for this service is $9 a month for their yearly plan. It's basically a set it and forget it app. The app, which you would ask the tenant to download for, because that's how they submit payment, it'll send reminders for you. It'll calculate late payment. You don't need to haggle back and forth with your tenant. It tells them, oh, based on your payment date, you owe this much of late fees if not on time. With managing my first rental ever, this service has been amazing for me. They have great customer service. Any issues that I have with payment, I chase down the customer service and they reply quickly. Right now they have an offer that's pretty much as close as free as you can have it. You can try their 6 months of service for $1. Link in the description below. I'm not good with description, so what I did is I basically I found the property whenever we bought it, and I just basically copy pasted the description, and obviously, which I'll go about it, and I described in the last video. We added a fourth bedroom, so instead of it being a 3-bedroom and 2.5, it was actually a 4-bedroom 2.5. If you're in between homes, right? If you're still looking for another home, and you're not going to sell your current home that you want it to be a rental property, I recommend doing the marketing as soon as you can. That way you're there, right? Because it's killer to have to drive all the way down to the property and have the person no show and just waste your time. So as long as you're already living there, you can tell them, hey, I'm gonna be there at this time, you can come check it out. Also might help visually to check out the home with furniture around. When we first posted, I knew it was working because we had 8 people show up to see the property. We first started on Zillow Property Manager, and then we got with RentRedi, which they posted for us on Realtor.com and Apartments.com, which that got even more views than just posting it on Zillow. One thing we realized is if you're not getting any showings or any signed contracts or any signed leases, you might have to bring your price down, and that's the gauge right there, right? Because we first started at 2,400. We had a couple come in and they wanted to rent it for that price, but once I screened them, they showed up with an eviction. And since this is my first rental, I didn't want someone that had an eviction before, which leads to my next step: screening tenants. Zillow Property Manager can do this for you, but based on what my realtor stated, she didn't trust Zillow. And I also had one of the tenants apply, do application, and basically they stated that they didn't have an eviction. I was like, okay, great, please pay the $24 for the application fee and we'll run your background. And Zillow confirmed there was no eviction. But my realtor recommended that I screen tenants through TransUnion mysmartmove.com. TransUnion is one of the 3 credit bureaus, and that tenant actually came up with 2 different evictions from different states. mysmartmove.com has an option to where you can pay the $38 fee or you can charge it to the tenant. All you need is the email address from this prospecting tenant and whoever else is supposed to be on the lease agreement. For example, if it's a spouse and they're married, ask for the other spouse's email address and what it is. My Smart Move will email them a form, a website. They would go in, enter the social security number, enter their identity, and about 30 minutes after they're done, My Smart Move will send you their credit report, criminal report, and eviction report. And this is very well in tune and deep dive in their background because if you have a nasty tenant, it's going to be more of a headache than something more streamlined. So I highly recommend you screen your tenants well. And now the fun part, leases. On that angle, I reached out to my realtor that helped us buy the next property, and actually that property, I used the same realtor. She said she also has rental properties, which that's what I also wanted in a realtor, someone that has experience with rental properties, so I could lean on her for some advice. And she shared with me one of her lease agreements. Leases can save you heartache. It can save you thousands of dollars if done right. Lease is basically the law of the house, for example, that you and your tenant both agree on. And it's really good to have it written out, everything that you can think of. Also, look up online based on your state um, what can be on the lease and what can't, what can you impose, what you can't, and some lease examples that you can read and mimic, copy. Lease will lay out all the rules, who's responsible for utilities, who's responsible for lawn care, HOA fees, HOA penalty fees, um, what can be in the garage, what can be inside the home, late fees after the third or after the first or after the fifth. Look up your state. How much is it for the first month, and then what's the consecutive day after that? But a good lease is as important as a good screening of the tenant. My first tenant process, um, she found our property in apartments.com thanks to RentRedi that was able to post in multiple sites for us. She was from Northwest Texas, which was about 6 hours away from us, so she wasn't able to basically come on the weekend to see the property. She wanted to find one online and FaceTime the properties that she was looking at, which I was able to do. We set up a day, and I basically FaceTime called her from the property, make sure that she knew there wasn't obviously there's a lot of scams going on out there. So for her to see it live is better than having to drive 6 hours just to take out the property. She liked the property and she wanted to sign a lease because she had a new job down here and she wanted to find a property ASAP. I reassured her the school district is amazing, the property is amazing, shouldn't have any issues. The property is a 4-bedroom. She has 4 kids, so it fit perfect for her. She told me that her husband will also be needing to be on the lease. I told her great. I told her I was going to send her a form from mysmartmove.com. And she went about that process, checked out her credit score, criminal, and her evictions. There was no evictions on both parties, so we were ready, good to go. I asked her to download the RentRedi app, and I told her that's how we're going to submit payments. That's how you're going to e-sign the lease. I was really surprised with the e-signing that RentRedi has. They literally have to take a selfie with their ID. That way, there's no forging of signature, and that's their signature. And RentRedi actually has copies of the lease agreements, and it's stored in the app. So anytime you want to download, you can save it to your hard drive. You can. It's even in the app for them, and they're able to make payments from there. Late payments are already calculated for them. Rent reminders are there as well. And boom, that was our first renters. Um, Process has been very, very streamlined. Haven't had to stress at all about rent payments. I've actually saved a lot of time by handing off that to the app. Have to be a great landlord. You have to be kind but firm, and that's where you lean on your lease. So make sure to have a good lease. Like I stated earlier, RentRedi, when it comes to late fees, it's already calculated there, and the tenant knows, okay, based on this date, you have this much fees of late fees that you need to pay, and the tenant knows because it's always on the lease that she or he is gonna have to pay for that. What maintenance calls are called, make sure to get back to your tenant at least 24 hours. Most cases are emergencies. For example, if the AC's out, heater's out, and we have a freeze or a heat wave coming in, you wouldn't want to be stuck living in those terms where the AC or heater is not working. So make sure to get back to your tenants. This is a business. And for example, let's say if you have an iPhone or an Android phone that it's not working anymore, and you take it back to the store, even though you bought it a week ago, and they're giving you bad service, you're not going to want to go back to them either. And that's the same thing with the landlord. Um, you want to provide an exceptional service, which they might want to stay longer because I've rented before, and I know the difference between having a good landlord and not. Someone that is able to take care of those problems ASAP and make sure their tenants are satisfied. Because guess what? They're paying rent to you. And the exchange of that is yes, you're providing housing for them to live in, but also you're taking care of problems that might pop up. So make sure to be a good landlord and always communicate with the tenant. Make sure again, at least 24 hours. Contacted them, tell them, hey, either I'm going up there to check it out, or hey, I got a guy coming in at this date. Are you available at this time? Does that work with your schedule so I can take care of this? And they'll be very grateful to you. On my next video, I'll discuss a 6-month landlord update, stress levels, expectations, stress level in overall logistics of being a landlord. And all I have to say is thank goodness for technology, because before it would have been a big stress for me to collect the rent. How do we meet up, or are you going to send it to me via mail? No, everything is paid through the app. And thank you.